All right, so now we're at the epic conclusion of Module 2. So what we're going to do is there's going to be some sort of exporting conversation, importing, and then we're going to be doing some calculations and some other things like that. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to quickly pause the recording and I'll get right back. So we got all this wonderful data. What if we want to actually now basically bring it out of Access and bring it to somewhere else? So what we're going to do first is we're going to basically run a query. So imagine this query here has got all this fabulous data we actually want. Well, now you can out of Access, I should say. So we're going to basically bring it into a spreadsheet. You can click on external data, and here's a couple choices. We'll talk about most of these, not most actually, to be honest. I think we're probably only really focusing mostly on these two of Excel, right? Yeah, because that's pretty well what you're going to mostly do. Excel, and then you can kind of choose where is it going to go, like your standard sort of save as, what kind of Excel document do you want, right? And what's the other guy? Oh, yeah, formatting and layout for sure. If you're just doing a straight data dump, you could uncheck that. If you want to actually have it sort of with some of this other format that you put in there, then that's good right there. So let's just go okay. Um, yeah, let's do that. All right. And if, by the way, if this is something you're going to keep doing again and again and again, then feel free to basically save that. Now it actually says save export steps. Okay, well, they want us to do it anyway, so let's just do that. So go to properties and click on save export. Boom. All right. So where in the world did that go? What I'm going to do is just to get it back, I'm just going to quickly click on the browse, and I want to show you that it's appeared right there. And I think if I right click and I go open, I'm going to bring up Excel, and there it is right there. So the data now exists as an Excel document. Obviously, by the way, these two are now completely separate. Let me just cancel and cancel. So the report here and the Excel, they're now two different things. It's basically copied it and put it into here. So if there's any changes that happen here, of course, those won't be reflected there. All right, so that's exciting. Let's keep going. If we want to export it to Word, right? So uh, there could well be a time, especially either while you're doing the college thing or if you're just sort of starting a job or even while you're in the job, that you want to basically take the data and you don't necessarily want it in an Excel spreadsheet. You actually want to have it in a Word document. So again, pick what you're gonna do. And it says with a query table to be exported to the navigation pane, select the more option. So let's go export and more. And there are some options there. All right, kind of cool is the HTML one for sure, Word, and so on. So it's not, there's other options besides that. A big deal that a lot of times happens if it's just data you care about is exporting it as a text file. When you're exporting it as a text file, your choices tend to be, it's just going to give me an okay, is it? Well, okay. I'm telling you why I'm curious is a lot of times what you do is you get comma delimited files. So it basically say, in fact, why don't we just do this? I'm going to save it right now. Nope. No. Okay, good. I was wondering when this wizard was going to pop up. So this way, what I want us to do right now is save it where every column is delimited or separated by a comma. That will be great as long as you don't have commas inside of your actual data. And even then, by the way, it figures, like if you look at this particular address, it figures a way around it by putting double quotes. Another option is fixed with, where it basically just sort of puts everything in columns. So you know that this from basically the first 5 characters are this field, the next few are the date, and so on. Okay, so definitely look at that. They're going to basically export it, and I'm not going to do it. Now import. Okay, so now we actually have got another database with tables in it. So I'm going to go cancel here, and I'm going to shut that down. And now we want to basically go and import it. So it says open the database, this, which is located in the database folder. So I actually have it located in my own downloads. So I'm going to open it right now. Let's make sure I got it right. All right. So this is another database. So I have the partners database, and then this is the database I've been working in. So what they want me to do, is export this into the other database. So into my main database. And why are we doing this? Maybe a friend of mine or another colleague or whatever happens to have the perfect table in their database, and they basically want to give it to us. So in the partners database, okay, yeah. So enable content, view closing. Oh, so let's just see what it is. Okay, so that's just basically, here's a bunch of data. Okay, close the fees and close the extra tables database. Oh, a little bit of a mistake there. All right, so that's basically what's in it. So I'm going to get out of here. So in this database, we want a new data source, right? So that's in the external data, new data source. And certainly we can get them from Excel, or we can get it from an actual database. We're going to go click on here. We're going to go to right, you want me to do access, I'm assuming. Yep, there it is, access. We're going to find my little database, which is my downloads, and this guy, and we're going to go okay. So I basically found it. I'm going to go okay. And in the tables, see, now at first it doesn't look like anything's happening because it's got queries, but here's a table. I'm going to click on closing fees, and I'm going to go okay. And I could save the steps, the import steps if I want, but I'm not going to. And now I've got my closings table there. Again, copied over. It's not linked, it's copied over. Okay, so that was basically pulling data out and bringing data back in into the database. Now, another thing that you're more likely to do, even more than at least importing data, is calculations. Because what we see here is that we're not doing any calculations with this stuff. This stuff is just straight queries out of existing tables. They can get a little bit sophisticated, like this guy here is pulling for more than one table, right? That's kind of cool, but we can do a lot more inside the actual with the actual data. So let's go ahead and do a calculated or computed field. So what exactly we're going to do here? We're going to go and we're going to create another query, but I just want to see, we're adding those fields. We right click, cool. Okay, so we're doing a calculation. Again, with this textbook, just sort of, pay attention to why are we doing what we're doing. So we're going to create something called total commissions, and total commissions is basically this sales commission plus the buying agent commission. All right. That data does not exist by itself in the table. We have to calculate it as we go. So let's create a query on the closing fees table. So we're going to click on this. Actually, we're going to close you, first of all. We're going to go create. We're going to go, actually, you know what? No, we're going to do it through the design. I'm going to bring the fields over. Again, make it look good so I can see what I'm doing. I want to have the closing ID, the settling agent commission, the buying agent commission, and oh, I think I forgot. What did I forget? The settlement sheet ID. All right, it's in the wrong order, so I'm going to click on this guy, click on this column, and then nope, that's nice. Click on the column and drag over. That's what I want to do. All right, good deal. Let's run it, by the way. See what we're looking at. This is what we're looking at. We're going to create a column that is the summation of these two things. That's what we're going to be doing. So let's go back over to design and let's get rid of this. Now it's basically saying click in the field right click on the field row on the first empty column, right? So we're going to basically right click right there. And we see that we have an option here to basically build, zoom properties, and so on. We had some of those options there as well. So it says click on zoom in the shortcut to get to the zoom dialog box. All right, good deal. And then we type this. And I'm going to go okay. All right, I'm assuming all that did it. Did it is great. Let's go ahead and run it and see what happens there with that. Their total commission. So if you're just going to basically, if you know your formula, that's a really cool option, right? You click on your column. This is going to be whatever it's going to be. The stuff to the left of the colon is going to be what the name of the column is going to be. You can kind of see that there. That's the name of the column right there. And then you have the actual formula. Now, that's certainly one way. They're going to show us another way in a second here. But if it's a pretty simple calculation, that's not a bad approach. All right, so it's all there. Do we have to save anything? No. Cool. To change a caption. Okay, so I've been waiting for them to do this. Now we can change basically the name of the field. We can change the caption. So what are we doing here? We are doing if necessary, we go to so where are we here? We're in the same query, I think. So we're in the design view. Okay, we're in the query design tab. We got that already. Click on the selling agent commission field in the design thing. There he is. And then click on the property button. So that guy, that's not the property button. Right click, properties. That's the property button. There's a caption. And if I don't want to have selling agent commission, but I want to actually have it called selling commission, now if I run it, it's now being called selling commission. You can do the same thing with buying commission. Okay, I want properties. Thank you. The database doesn't really care what it's called. This is only really just for you so that your queries are actually more, what you want them to look like. Remember the double clicking that we learned in Excel all works here as well. All right, so now we got ourselves a nice little query, which we can save, copy, and I'm going to go in here. I wonder if there was a 12 I didn't do. Feeling a little bit bad about that, but we'll just move on and pretend that everything's okay. Let's go, and we go next. Okay, so statistics. So what it's saying now is we want to actually have totals and things on our actual columns, because right now we don't have any totals. It's zeros and zeros. This isn't a total. It's just waiting for the next row. So we're going to create ourselves a new query. Let's get out of here, create ourselves a new one, and it's going to be using the closing fees again. Okay, and let's get out the properties. I don't need that, and I don't need that anymore. Okay, and I don't think, yeah, there you go, double clicking. I've been, resizing it like a chump, but double clicking, I'm just remembering, is another way to do this. Okay, so it says here, create a new query on the closing fees table. Click the totals button up here, and I can't believe I didn't actually see that. So that's way over here. Totals button. Got it. Okay. So I'm going to click on the totals button. And what that's done is it's given me a whole new row. So if I take it off, you'll see that there's no totals. Now there's a total. All right. Now we're going to add attorney's fees to this. That's appraisal. Attorney's fees to this. So there's attorney's fees. And I can actually now have a total. This is all being kind of grouped by attorney's fees. Now, what else am I going to add to this? Well, by the way, yeah. So they want us to basically click on the total row there and then click down to get the total list. This is my list. So it's either going to be group by or it's going to be all the fees, the average, the minimum, the maximum, and so on. I think, yeah, they want the average. and I'm going to go run it. Now, what did that do? This is showing me the average attorney fee in that entire closing fees table. Sometimes it's good if you just sort of, again, play around with it. So right now I'm going to say, hey, show me the groupings. Actually, you know what? First of all, I'm going to do this. No groupings at all. So here are all the fees together, excluding zero. Zero is not a fee. Now, if I go to design and I say, give me the totals, group by, this is going to look almost exactly the same, right? Except we don't see the zero anymore. And you might have noticed, and I probably should have highlighted it, but you might have noticed that there was a duplicate there. Was there a duplicate there? Yeah, 250, 250, right? So there's two 250s, then there's a 350 and a $1. When I go ahead and say, hey, total them up, it's not really so much total, this is more like statistics. What it's going to do is it's going to, when it says just says group by, it's almost like when I asked it for unique, right? But if I was to go ahead and say, don't group by it, but in fact, give me the sum, this is the sum total of all of them, or give me the average. This is the average of all of them. And that's what this guy is asking us to do. But that is the average, right? We're about to stick something else in here, right? So yeah, that is the average of the entire table. So let's go back again and revisit what that table actually looks like. So we got attorney's fee. Is there an attorney? Who else am I trying to get there? So include the attorney's fee, but this time, second column. Okay. All right. All right. All right. What? Okay. You know what? Just for fun, let me just grab something that's not on the example and bring it over so I can show you what I'm talking about. No totals, straight shot at the table. I've got the closings and the actual attorney fees. Okay. Now it says this time in the second. Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah, no wonder it wasn't making sense to me. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, so you know what they're basically saying here? They want us to have two columns. They want us to have attorney's fees twice, right? So now these two columns look exactly the same, and we're just going to get the same repeated numbers. But watch what happens now when when we add a total row. I make this, I believe, the group by, and I make this the average. So select total row in the second. Okay, you know what? Yeah, I should see. Oh no, don't anticipate what the book's doing, Grant. Here's average, and then this guy, they're basically saying leave it as group by. Is that right or not? Oh, okay. Well, actually, again, very slowly, let's build this thing. So the average of whether it's like for every $1 it's one. This is ridiculous. I don't like this query. What are you trying to get me to do here? All right, Grant, if you just did the query, just do the query the way they're saying. What I was thinking, you see, because I do want to show this one. If I basically said, give me the average by not attorney's fees, but by the closing ID, for example. This is the average per closing ID. Now let's just have a look at closing fees for a second. Is there something else that's not really right? All right. Well, sometimes the data is just too simple, and I get it. I get it. I get it. I'm just going to do what the example is and then try to explain it after the example. So what we're supposed to do, go to design, include this guy again. So now we got him twice. And the design thing, it's going to be listed twice. Click the total row has been done. And then the second fees, so this guy was average. Click the total arrow in the second column to display the total list, which I'm going to do right there. All right, cool. Select where, because they're basically making us do a restriction. Where and the criteria for that where is greater than 200. So we only want to have this average fees where it's more than 200. Okay, that's fair. All right. So if I go, run that now, and that's what we're getting. And if you again look at the query, It's basically saying, give me the average fee where the closing ID is more than 200. Okay. Okay. Wonderful. Let's go save as object and go. Next. Okay. Okay. All right, friends, this is what's been happening inside my brain. I'm a bit ahead of the textbook. What they're showing here is the average for the entire set of closing fees, or the average for the entire set of closing fees when there's a certain criteria, like, in this case, the closing AD is more than 200, or I could have said where the average closing fee is more than, like, more than $1. Because remember, we had that $1 fee sitting in there. That wasn't super useful. So, there's a couple things there that I could see why we were doing that. But now what we're going to do is do what I was trying to get to, which is group it by a particular thing. So, for example, if I want to know what the average grade was for this course, I could say, what's the average grade? If I wanted to know what's the average grade by student faculty, because some of you might be in different faculties, that would be grouping the average salary by faculty, right? If I wanted to say what's the average income of the Twin Cities, that's one thing. But if I said what's the average income of the Twin Cities by the city you're in, that'd be basically what's the average of the income group by city. And that's kind of where we're about to head to. So we're going to create another query. Let's close him and create another one. Create query. And it's again off of the closings table again. Closings table. Okay. And again, double click, double click. Cool. I want to add the new loan amount and purchasing mortgage company ID. Okay. So let's run it first of all to see what we're looking at. All right. So that's what we're looking at. Again, new loan amount and purchasing. Great. So now let's go back here and click on the totals button. All right. Select average as the calculation for the total row of the new loan amount. So your average. Let's make sure this all works. It all looks good. We're going to run the query, right? And remember, we actually had a duplicate there. We had two of one of these values. I can't remember it, but so that's the average. The average new loan amount by the purchasing mortgage ID, whatever. Normally, I'm going to save it right now, but I am having conflicting issues about this because you wouldn't do it like this. You'd have this guy over here. That's much more what people would be used to seeing. What are you grouping it by, and then what's the actual value? And I'm struggling here because, again, I would be calling this an aggregate, right? These are aggregates: the average, the sum, the count, the minimum, the maximum. These are aggregate values by the detail. So in this case, the average new loan by the purchase mid or whatever, the average by the mid. All right. So now let's close them. Yeah, you can see it. I love it. Next. Okay, so as we've been warming up to this idea, we're now going to do a cross-tab query. So far, when we've been creating queries, and if we just go to the wizards for a second, there's a simple, but now we're going to go and do a cross-tab query. All right, so I think, yep, there's going to be a walkthrough of that one. So we're going to go create. Yeah, okay, so I was just there. So let's just do that. Create crosstab. I'm going to go, okay, cool. Click OK. Okay, so where am I trying to get to though? I want, so create cross-tab query, click OK on that cross-tab query dialog box. Okay, so that's what I kind of just did, but are you just assuming it's buyers then? It's buyers? Payroll. Okay, so with this, so it's going to be closings. Okay, closings. And then next, and we're going to keep his tables. And then click on purchasing mortgage ID. We can move over. And so what does that look like? So now we got what we're going to be getting is the total, and the total what? The total, it's going to be total by purchasing ID. And I think now the next thing is going to be the title company. So it's going to be purchasing mortgage ID by title company, and there's going to be something that we're about to sum up. And now these are all going to be numerical values. So what they're basically asking for is the new loan amount, and we'll deal with this in a minute, but it's going to be the new loan amount by purchasing and by title. All right, and what do we want? We want the sum. That makes sense. Quick review, average count, the first one in the data set, the last one in the data set, the largest one in the data set, the smallest one in the data set. Standard deviation and variance are both statistical things, and then you basically have the sum. And I think at this point I can just click on go, right? Click on next. I can give it a name. And closing crosstab, that's what we're going to call it. Okay, good. And we're going to just go. And so this is the sum of the new loan amount by M001 for each of these. Geez, what were those again? Those were the title category. All right, so play around with that. Okay, now the rest of this is just like changing the navigation pane. So basically changing some of your user interface, which I can see why they care about this, because here's what's happening here. This is your navigation pane, and there's a lot of stuff now going on in here. You could, if you want, start sort of editing what you want to actually see. And I think, is this it? Yeah. So if you want to basically see uh was it by tables, for example. So these are all your tables. These are all your queries. It's just your way to sort of get a little bit of control, because even a fairly simple thing like this has already started to become a fairly complicated set of objects. I'm trying to think how to get back to the way it was before. How do I get back to the way it was before? Nope, not that. Yeah. Hmm. All right. So the way I would have used it is oops, selected that way, groups. Come on, man. Help me out here. All right. So, oh, that's pretty clever, by the way. So what it's doing now, which I have to admit, I kind of hadn't thought about before, it's basically showing you each object and the things that are tied to those particular objects. So this is a seller, for example. It's got not just the table name, but it's got queries and the in this case the form, and in this case the reports. That is actually pretty cool. I have to say, most of the time I've just basically just looked at it by object type, right? But that's good. It's good. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I like that. Access has changed quite a bit since since I continue to use it. So, all right. Well, that was fun, and that was sort of the end of this particular module.